the College Football Playoff Board of Managers unanimously revised the qualifying criteria for the 12-team event to include the 5 highest-ranked conference champions plus the next 7 highest-ranked teams determined by the CFP selection committee. This change modifies the original plan, which called for the bracket each year to include the 6 highest-ranked conference champions and then plus the next 6 highest-ranked teams. Under the 12-team playoff format that begins in the fall, the 4 highest-ranked conference champions will be seeded 1 through 4, and each will receive a first-round bye, while teams seeded 5 through 12 will play each other in the first round on the home field of the higher-ranked team. So, for example, 5 is going to play 12, 6 will play 11, and so on. Quarterfinals and semifinals will be played in the New Year's 6 bowl games, and the national championship game will continue to be at a neutral site. This is interesting, though, for me. No conference will qualify automatically, and there will be no limit on the number of participants from a conference. That specifically sticks out to me. I feel like when it comes time for college football playoff, and we've got those 12 teams, and you got your conference champions, obviously, I have a strong feeling that a lot of these teams are all going to be coming from the SEC and the Big Ten. You are going to see, let's just count them out here. So let's say you've got your conference champions. Let's say Utah wins the Big 12. I know it's going to piss people off, whatever. Let's say they win. Let's say Georgia wins the SEC. Let's say Ohio State wins the Big Ten. Let's say Clemson wins the ACC. Okay, so you got your 4 major conference champions. I'm not missing any, right? Now, 4 highest-ranked conference champions will be seeded 1 through 4. Your next teams, you are going to have Michigan probably. You're going to have Penn State probably. You're going to probably have Alabama. You're going to probably have Florida State. That's what? 9 of your 12 teams coming from how many conferences, right? Like I don't know if there's a better way to do it, but like the Big 12 and the ACC are going to get left behind. They are going to get left behind because right now there isn't enough talent, right? The same conversation we had with college basketball for Arizona State. Like the Big 12, yes, there are players here and there. The SEC and the Big 10 are dominating recruiting. They're dominating recruiting right now. They're owning specific positions of need, right? We all know the SEC owns the trenches. We know that Ohio State owns the skill players. What's the Big 12 got? What's the ACC got? Nothing. What's the Mountain West got? Nothing. Like, and that's what you're starting to see it, right? Jonathan Smith, for example, leaving Oregon State, a program that he had built up, to go to Michigan State. A program that was Mel Tucker, he pushed that shit off a cliff. Like, that's the state of college athletics. We have these isolated conversations, right, about Arizona State because this is an Arizona State podcast. And when you start to zoom out and look at all the sports, everybody not named Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State is getting fucked. That's the truth. Look at USC. USC in the Pac-12. Lincoln Riley, offensive genius, returning a Heisman quarterback who's likely to go number 1 in the NFL draft. They were what, 7-5? Because why? Well, everybody knows their defense was god-awful. Recruiting. The SEC and the Big Ten own everybody else, okay? They own everybody else. Craig Morgan would agree with me. I know he would. That's just the way things go. And so when you look at the college football playoff expansion going to 12 teams, no conference is going to automatically qualify, and there's going to be no limit on the number of participants, I think you're going to start to see, it's easy to talk about it, and it was super easy to talk about it in the 4-team format, right? Where you've got just Georgia, and you get Georgia and Alabama was always the conversation. You can only have one. You can't have 2. And then when there was 2, it was everybody's bias. So you get Georgia, Bama, Ohio State, throw in some other team that's not going to ever do anything. Like, that's where you're at, man. That's where you're at. Not to mention Oklahoma and Texas now in the SEC. LSU in the SEC. It's just going to be the SEC playoff is what it's going to be. It's going to be the SEC and Big Ten playoff with 3 other teams. And it's going to be interesting, to say the least. I don't think the 12-team format, from, again, my personal perspective, I don't think the 12-team format is going to be the permanent format that we are going to see 10 years from now. I just think there is not necessarily too many flaws, but things like this require trial and error